Hi there. Here's another lesson that I learned from my father. And the title is really a question. And the question is, have you ever been stewed, or have you ever stewed someone? Now, when I say stew, one of my hobbies is cooking. And there are several ways that you can prepare the meat. You can fry it, you can bake it, and stewing is a process. Well, when you stew your meat, it's a long process, and you cook it under a slow fire so that all the flavors and ingredients could come together. Here's my story. My father, from time to time, used to send me to pay the utility bills. Now, I don't know whether he did it because he was late, or perhaps he just wanted to teach me a lesson and learn me that things are not free: water, electricity, telephone. But either way, I was happy to do the favor. He would always give me 50 cents. You see, it was 10 cents to catch the bus and going one way, and 10 cents back, and leave me with 30 cents. Now, you might think 50 cents, that's not a lot of money. But in those days, we're talking about the 60s, early 60s, and with 50 cents, hey, that was my money for the weekend. You see, I could go to the movies, buy a popcorn, buy a drink, and I was a happy camper. We always go to the movies on the weekend, and about what I needed was 50 cents. So anyway, as I left the house, instead of catching the bus, I was just going to walk a mile, 2 miles. We did that regularly during those days, so there was nothing to it. I met my first friend, Kenneth, or Pahu as we called him, and he said, "Man, where you going?" I said, "Hey, I'm going to the shopping center to pay the electric bill." He said, "Okay, I'll walk with you." We went up a little further, and my second buddy, Pep, sitting on the porch. "Where y'all going?" "We're going to South Windermere to pay the bill." Now, Pep's mother worked for a Dairy Queen, which was like on the way. He said, "Okay, I'll go as well. And we can stop by Dairy Queen. I know my mom will give us something good." So, man, were we excited at that time. So we went on to pay the bill. Now, we decided to take this shortcut. And it would mean that we would have to go down the railroad track. Well, while walking down the railroad track, now here again, this is the South. You had black neighborhoods and you had white neighborhoods, and they weren't mixed. But the railroad track would take us through a white neighborhood. Well, some kids were playing on the neighborhood, and what they were doing was setting a fire. And this was extremely hot, dry weather. Well, we knew that this was pretty dangerous, so we asked them what were they doing, and when we saw that they were lighting the fire was blazing, we ran and put the fire out, and they took off running and went to one way or the other. We put the fire out, and we continued on our journey. But just as we got to the shopping center, here come this police car. Came and pulled up on the three of us. "Hey, stop right there." We stopped, didn't know what was going on, looked around. Next thing you know, he frisked us down, put us in the car, took us to the police station. We said, "Sir, what did we do?" He said, "Well, you ought not to be bothering people's children." We said, "We didn't bother nobody." We said the kids were trying to burn a fire, and we just put the fire out. That's all we did. Well, needless to say, that was a little bit too much for the time. Well, anyway, this was early that day. We put us in a holding room, and I'm telling you, this was the nastiest and dirtiest place I've ever been in my life. It smelled terrible. But we had ourselves a good time. We sat there and we laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. Talking about it, made fun of it. But the night was drawing in and began to get dark. There was only one window in the place, and that was high up. Well, first, Kenneth's mom came to pick him up. He left. Me and Pep was there, and we laughing a little bit more. Second, my dad came and picked me up. And as I left out of that room, Pep started hollering and screaming and crying, because now he was by himself. Well, here's what my dad said to me as we were going, when we got out to the car. He said, "You know what? I got to call very early that day what had happened." And I asked the officer, I said, "What did the children say?" He said, "Well, they tried to give him a story about somebody was setting a fire, and they just chased the kids away." So here's what I did. He said, I got back, drove up there myself, and I walked the railroad track. And I saw with my own eyes exactly where the children was burning the fire at. In fact, he was still smoking a little bit when I got there. So what I did was I went to Miss Lily and I went to Pep Mothers and I told them, I believe that our kids were telling the truth about the setting of the fire. He said, however, here's what we ought to do. Let's not go down there right away and pick them up. Let's let them sit there and stew for a while. Well, let me tell you something. Needless to say, that time that I spent in that room with under bad conditions, smelling, nasty, dirty room, I made up my mind right then and there that this wasn't the kind of place that I wanted to be in. And my rest of my life was governed about me doing the right thing. To our parents, you see, there's this time that you have to let your kids soak for a while, stew for a while. They get the message. They get a good message. There was a second occasion that my father made me stew. I had did something in school, and it was on a Monday. I just knew that I was going to be in for it when I get home. Well, he didn't say nothing. Tuesday came. He didn't say nothing else, and I was beginning to feel good because I figured he was kind of old and he was forgetful. By Friday, nothing had happened when he didn't say anything. Well, Saturday, it's time for me to go to the movies now. And as my friend came and I was about to walk out the door, I'm going to the movies, Bob. He said, hold up. Sorry, Bubba, you're not going anywhere. I said, what? He said, yeah, oh, you thought I had forgotten about what happened in school. He said, no, you're going to stay here the rest of the weekend, and you got some work to do. You other guys, go on. Well, needless to say, during that weekend, I ran that incident through my mind 1,000 times. What I did wrong, what I should do the next time, all because my father made me stew for a while. Have your child ever been stewed for a while? Or are you running to them and taking them out even before they have learned a lesson? Try it. It will be to their benefits. Thank you.